Today's trip takes us down the west side of the North Ridge to Gartmorn Dam. You remember my attempt to go down the east side meant me turning back because I came across steps. Now, just before I reached the start of this trip, I met a gentleman who'd just walked up it. I said, "Will I get through this okay?" He said, "Oh, no, you won't. Narrow gates and narrow path that's not suitable for your scooter." So, of course, I decided I would give it a go anyway. Of course, the gate is perfectly navigable, which is wonderful. So I zoomed through the gate, headed off, and immediately reached the first problem. Was it the left or was it the right track? It is this sort of dilemma that I seem to constantly face on my scooter. Routes I've never been on before, always worrying. I took the left track, although it looked worse. The right track looked excellent, but I was pretty sure it was a longer route down a different part of the forest. But this left track was exciting. It was rough and it was narrow in places. And quite often I had the wheels up the bank and on the grass as opposed to on the path. A friendly hello from a mountain biker who seemed to be heading down. So little muddy patches. But really one of the most interesting routes I've done. Probably one of the more difficult. I certainly didn't rate it a green route, which are my easy and pleasant. So this was yellow, which is slightly challenging, but not impossible if you've got an off-road scooter. And the TGA Vita X was coping with this, no problem at all. As you can see from the shake in the camera, it is bumpy and rough, bearing in mind that the image is stabilized. It doesn't take much of a big bump to shake the camera. Always suspicious of big logs. What could be ahead? Well, it was all going fine. As you can see, we'd had both really strong winds and really heavy rain the week before this trip, which was late September. So there's leaves everywhere. The biggest hazard was twigs, which had already gotten my scooter earlier and had to be removed. But I was just breaking through them. I think this is one track I was really glad of the knobbly tyres. In the muddy patches, I had no doubt I would get through them. And as you can see, there's quite a steep climb ahead there. It's one of these things, I'm going from sort of 60 metres up to about 75 metres, 80 metres, and then down to 50, which doesn't seem much, but of course the climbs and the descents all seem to come together. So they're very short and very steep. Now this is me coming out onto a little bit of farm track. Poultry farm on the right. Still a few big puddles on the track, but we just zoom through these, no problem at all. This is a bit more farm track like, so no problems on this little stretch. But it very quickly turns into a single track again. So a bit more navigation to keep the tyres on something passable. But I'm really enjoying this route. It's a route I will take a lot, along with the North Ridge itself. Of course, gates appear and I suddenly think, am I going up through there? No, back onward with a slight incline. Bit of a stop there. I was possibly looking at my map, which I have on another advantage of the phone. I uploaded the map file so I can actually look at a route map as well as my ordnance survey maps, which are also loaded on my phone. And of course, because I have good 4G coverage in this area, I have internet access the whole time. As you can see, this track is narrow, very much a walking track, but by being prepared to put the tyres on the grass at one or other side, or sometimes both, it's an easy trip. Hammering through a few of the larger bushes at the side. But I was never sure what I was coming to, having never been on it before. The air of jeopardy always exists in these early trips for exploration. But the sun coming through the trees was beautiful here, very nice. And we're going through a bit of a descent here. Descents are always more difficult than ascents. It's funny, I do a path in the opposite direction and suddenly think this is much more difficult than I remember. But it's usually because I've gone up it rather than down it the first time. I can see the path ahead. It all looks clear. Good tunnels through the undergrowth. Although the path was a little overgrown in some places. It was a very pleasant trip, one I will do often, if not every time I go, because it takes me very nicely down to the dam. It's nicely sheltered, plenty to look at. I'll get some photographs. And of course, another gate there. What on earth was that for? Well, suddenly, of course, I realise as the main circuit round the dam appears, you can see the dam in the distance. I hope you enjoyed that film. Thank you.